And I'm delighted to welcome a very old friend, Kane Sims. I never quite know what Kane's going to talk about, but he's going to be talking about change and the impact on business. But anyway, over to you, Kane.
Thank you very much, Alan. Appreciate that. I see you got me some gifts. Thank you very much.
For all of your family as well.
I might need a hand carrying them all back, but thank you.
You'll never get those on British Airways.
Hello. You all good? Yeah? Good, good. Had a good few days? Yeah? Lots of learnings, lots of excitement. I made it a little mission of mine in 2025 to begin every speech with a segment from the classic British sitcom, Only Fools and Horses. So here it is.
You know, morning, Joe. Thank God you've arrived. He could bore you two with it now.
What's that?
Trigger's got a medal.
So what exactly is the award for?
For saving the council money. I happened to mention to her one day that I've had the same broom for the last 20 years. She was very impressed and said, have a medal. 20 years. That's a long time, Dave.
Yeah? Well, that's 2 decades, isn't it?
I wouldn't go that far, but it's a long time.
Treat, just a second. If you've had that broom for 20 years, have you actually swept any roads with it?
Well, of course. But I look after it well. We have an old saying that's been handed down by generations of road sweepers. Look after your broom.
Did your broom look after you?
No, Dave, it's just look after your broom.
Well, that I'll say.
Yeah, and that's what I've done. I've maintained it for 20 years. This old broom has had 17 new heads and 14 new handles in its time.
For those of you who have been born and raised in Germany, that might not have quite as much sentimental value as it does for the English people among you, but or for the British. But that essentially is Trigger talking about his broom, and it comes from, it's almost a contemporary version of the old ancient Greek paradox called Theseus's ship. I don't know if anyone's come across this paradox before, but essentially it asks the question, if you have an old ship, or even a new ship for that matter, this ship, and over time, as it requires maintenance and repair, you slowly but surely replace bit of wood after bit of wood. At some point in time, you will have replaced every single piece of wood on that ship with entirely new bits of wood. Once you've done that, is that ship still Theseus's ship? Is the question. Show of hands if you think that if I was to replace every piece of wood on that ship, it would still be the same ship. Few people. It's still called Theseus's ship. Theseus still owns it, still uses it for the same purpose as he did before. What if I was to keep all of the old bits of wood in a warehouse somewhere, and one day I decided to reconstruct the ship with all of the original pieces of wood? I've now got 2 ships. Which is the original Theseus's ship, or which one is now Theseus's ship? Who believes that Theseus's ship is the first ship that's been replaced with all of the new bits of wood? Yeah? Who believes that Theseus's ship is actually the one that's been reconstructed with all of the original materials? All right, okay, half and half. So this kind of paradox questions identity and how identity changes over time, essentially. And everyone in this room is in a similar kind of situation, basically. You are, technically speaking, not the same person that you were in the past. Your cells that line your intestines change completely to new cells every 15 days or so. Your taste bud cells replenish every 5 days or so. Your skin, essentially all the cells on your body that make up your skin, they're replenished every 120 days or so. The fibers in your muscles, every 10 years, all the cells in your muscles completely replaced with new cells. And even your bones, the very things that kind of hold you up and the very fibers of your being change completely every 15 years or so. So you probably believe yourself to be the same person, but physically you are an entirely different thing to what you were 15 years ago. And businesses are exactly the same as that. businesses are in constant motion. Planks of wood are being constantly replaced over time. And if you were to think about what a business is, what are the fundamentals of a business? I've identified 4 things that a business can't exist without. Can anyone hazard a guess at what a business is fundamentally? Can anyone shout out? People? Look at that, people. Wow. It wasn't a plant, but well done. What else constitutes a business? Anybody? What was that? Say again? Did you say something? Product. Product. Good question. Good comment. First of all, customers. Next is things, which is products. So essentially, people begin businesses. Every single person here works in a business. Every business that you work for was started by other people. Those people identify areas of value that they can offer to customers, and they deliver that value through the creation of those things, which is products, services. Those products could be physical things like food or clothing. It could be virtual things like media subscription or music. They could be psychological things like insurance, for example. And in order to create those things, to deliver that value to those customers, those people need to create systems. Systems could be technology systems, they could be processes, but essentially these things go together. And over time, these things inevitably change. You could say that it's highly likely that your business doesn't consist of the same people that it did 50 years ago. Maybe some of them might be the same, but fundamentally I would argue that most of your business probably consists of people that didn't work at that business 50 years ago. Your customers, probably completely different to what they were 50 years ago. Your products and services might be fundamentally different to what they were 3 years ago, even if they're in the same product category. The fundamentals of them may well have changed. Some of you might have the same systems, the same processes maybe, but generally speaking, most of these things change over time. And as technology improves, we'll start to see, and we are seeing, all of these areas impacted tremendously, and especially with artificial intelligence. I can't count the amount of times that we've had people on this stage commenting on how fast this technology is moving, and it is moving at an absolute rapid pace. In terms of the systems, I'm reminded of Satya Nadella, from Microsoft CEO, who was on a podcast fairly recently. And it was really interesting hearing him speak about the potential of artificial intelligence to completely disrupt some of the fundamental systems that Microsoft has in place, one of the world's largest organizations, and the CEO is sitting there questioning whether some of its core product lines are even relevant in the age of AI. After all, Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and Excel are fundamentally databases with code over the top. And as artificial intelligence gets better and better and better at generating or writing code, Satya Nadella is questioning whether or not some of Microsoft's core products are even going to be relevant. And so this technology has the potential to completely fundamentally shift and change our systems that we have in our organization. If Satya Nadella is questioning whether or not artificial intelligence is going to disrupt Microsoft's core product line, think a little bit about some of the business systems that you use and have probably been using for the last 10, 20 years. CRMs and CCAS and some of your line of business systems that do things like case management and order processing and all of these kind of things. In the age of AI, these software as a service companies and systems are open for disruption. That also has an impact on the things that you can do. I mean, if you look at stuff like deep research, you look at OpenAI's O1 reasoning models, it's not too much of a stretch of the imagination to think about how technologies like that could have a fundamental impact in some of the services and products that you offer. There's companies out there now, there's one called Citizens Wine in Australia, and it uses artificial intelligence to do a whole bunch of things around mining and analyzing customer behavior, soil conditions, weather conditions, consumer buying trends, and it kind of puts all this stuff together to identify what the best blend of grapes would be to make a particular wine in a particular season. And that's doing really, really well. So if you imagine taking something like deep research and O1 and a model such as that, combining that with all of your customer data, your historic purchasing data, your website behavior, and all of the kind of data that you have within your organization, It's not too difficult a stretch of imagination to think about how that information can be used to create completely new product offerings, and even potentially hyper-personalized product offerings that are tailored for the specific needs of every individual user. We spoke a little bit on the panel earlier on about the ways in which this technology is impacting customers, and how customers and end users are using their own technologies and will be increasingly using their own technologies to interact with your business. You know, even something as simple as a few weeks ago, I've got a 1-year-old child who goes to nursery. They've moved him up into this older group without telling us. He's not even 2 yet, but they've moved him into the room of 2-year-olds, and they've been trialing him up there. And they have a staffing shortage, and all of a sudden they got in touch with us and said, there's no space for Wolfie in the nursery because we're understaffed. And we were like, well, he doesn't belong in that nursery, he belongs in the other nursery. Why is he in that nursery? And they said, oh, well, we officially moved him in February, but we forgot to tell you. So I was like, right, ChatGPT, write me a complaint letter to the nursery threatening to escalate this to Ofsted if they don't give my son his nursery place back. And in 30 seconds, it written the complaint, and I forwarded it on. And I had ChatGPT generate 3 different emails, basically, to go to this nursery. It's no kind of like deep stretch of the imagination to imagine a time when ChatGPT sends that email for me. The email arrives back, and ChatGPT goes through it, processes it, drafts a response, and even sends the response back based on what I'd promised to do in the original email. And this is a really basic, simple, really basic example of how this technology potentially in the hands of customers can start to have an impact on your businesses, because they'll be using more intermediaries over time to get things done on their behalf. I don't want to talk about Alexa and Alexa Plus, but there was a time when I believed that a platform like that would be this ambient computing platform that would be going away and doing things on behalf of me as the end user, that would have a connection to my bank and my insurance and all of the companies and brands that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. And maybe now, you know, if we look at the next 10 years or so, maybe platforms like that, platforms like ChatGPT, platforms like Microsoft Copilot, they're going to be doing more things on behalf of customers. And as a business, we need to understand how we expose our services and our content, etc., to be able to handle that. And finally, the impact on people. If you look at AI as, first of all, giving us the ability to impact our systems, the first order effect of AI essentially is increased automation, 100%. The second order impact of increased automation means improved efficiencies. The third order impact of improved efficiencies means what? We've already heard from Skoda yesterday. Wasn't the intention behind some of the automation initiatives that they have, but it has meant that they've saved 25% on their people resources from their outsourced BPO provider. It's a natural knock-on effect. And a lot of the kind of concern people have around job displacement and all this kind of stuff, I think is very much well-founded, and it's really understanding and obvious for us as well-natured, kind people to want to look after our staff and want to preserve what we have. But the reality is that this stuff has been changing all through recent history. So this study here is looking at jobs in America, and 60% of people in America are in jobs that did not exist in 1940, 85 years ago, didn't exist. 85% of job creation since 1940 has become because of technology. 85%. I would probably wager that there are very few people in this room who are in jobs that existed in 1940. Head of customer experience, director of contact centers, chief information officer, chief technology officer, digital transformation director, all of these positions, conversational architect, data scientist, all of these positions didn't exist in 1940. Probably didn't even exist, some of them 20 years ago. And so the natural progression and the natural way of things is that things change, job roles change. And so the question is, what's the impact of changing job roles in the contact center? There's a really great report called Unlocking Impact from AI from BCG. I would definitely encourage everyone to go and give that a download and to have a look at it, because inside, I'll skip ahead because one of the animations broke. Inside, it lays out the current and future potential of the workforce in the contact center. And what it suggests is that if you look at today, the team size in the top left-hand corner there is that we have a lot of resources on the first line, the front line, people answering the phones, answering chats, responding to customers. Second to that is the back office, the people that deal with the escalations and the more complex use cases. Then we have supervisors and management on top of that. In the future, BCG suggests that actually technology, largely artificial intelligence, is going to have a dramatic impact on that first line, the front line. And we're already seeing that in many cases. There's loads of organizations who've made real progress towards devolving that first line support to artificial intelligence. And now, with generative AI and AI agents, that's only going to increase in terms of speed. The team composition today, on the left-hand side there, every single person in a contact center is spending their time working on core functions, answering emails, answering phone calls, typing up disposition codes, doing the practical day-to-day job. In future, in the not too distant future, and arguably speaking, there's probably companies in this room today who've already got a situation a little bit like this, is that we'll be moving more from day-to-day operational support. That function will shrink, and there'll be a new element within the job role, which is AI operations. Most contact centers that I know of that have AI solutions in place and have them for a while have a team of people that design, develop, implement, manage, improve, analyze, and continuously improve artificial intelligence solutions. It's actually a very common career path for agents in the contact center to become designers and architects and quality assurance testers and analysts and things like that. And then what that then leads to is that in terms of the type of work that the team is doing today, most of them are working on day-to-day stuff. So the yellow stuff here, if you look, is day-to-day running of service delivery. The black stuff is continuous improvement and long-term change. So in future, and again, when I say future, it could be 2 years' time, could be 6 months' time, most of the activity in terms of AI ops and day-to-day operations and in terms of the spread of people's job roles is going to be focused more on that continuous improvement, more on leveraging these tools and improving these tools over time. And why? What's the impact of that? So I mentioned there, if the first order effect of AI is increased automation, a second order effect is improved efficiency, a third order effect is job displacement, essentially. The fourth order effect surely has to then start to impact the business. There's no point in increased efficiencies and reorganizing your people if it's going to have absolutely no impact on the business whatsoever. So this was released literally yesterday. This is a McKinsey research report that asks business leaders, what do you think the impact of generative AI is going to be on revenue? And in the first half of last year, if you look down there at service operations, fourth one down, which I'll put contact center in, 45% of business leaders in the first half of 2024 said it's going to have an impact on revenue. Fast forward to the back half of 2024, it's now 63%. I would put that down to increased experimentation. If we put, for example, Santander were on the stage yesterday, they were sharing their use case of the outbound call that they've put in place, wanting to try and impact revenue, experimenting to see whether or not this technology can move the needle as far as revenue is concerned. And they found that it can. What I would say is that most organizations, or a lot of organizations, have been experimenting with this technology to find out where can it sit within the business and what impact can it have, and that experimentation is giving confidence in terms of its ability to generate revenue. Very rarely do we find a technology that has the ability to do both things, increase revenue and save cost. Most of the time, things that we try in a business to increase efficiency or impact things have one effect or the other. But actually, most business leaders, 58%, according to this study, forecast that generative AI does give them the opportunity to save costs as well. So we're in a unique situation where it's not just automation for automation's sake. It's not just kind of increased efficiencies for the sake of it. The whole idea and where this leads to is more effective cost management, more revenue. And so the question is, what do we do about it and how do we go about doing it? We've seen some great case studies over the last few days of businesses that have put this into practice. A lot of businesses have got a fair degree of maturity. Some businesses in this auditorium here might be slightly behind in terms of their maturity, but maturity is a really good way of thinking about it. Ultimately, you need to be able to develop a level of maturity such that you can create, deploy, analyze, optimize these solutions and respond to change quickly. And so we have this maturity model. You can go to vux.world/maturity, and there's 10, 15 questions or so, and it will kind of show you where you are. Most, given the Metagy talk that happened yesterday, I would say most are probably in this kind of like run phase or walk phase. And the question is, how do we sort of start to build maturity? And it's very tempting when you see the whole kind of concept of AI agents. You think, oh, well, AI agents can automate absolutely anything. It's very tempting to have a knee-jerk reaction and say, well, let's find something to automate. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what I would call a narrow and deep approach. If you've got a specific business problem and you want to try and automate that and try and see if you can get some leverage from it, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Earlier on, we had the panel discussion, we were talking about AI first. What does AI first mean? Well, AI first means being the first touch point across all customer channels. Every single time or every single place where your business meets your customer, there's an AI-mediated interaction happening. So AI first means, first and foremost, you have to understand and get a grip on your channel strategy. And what I mean by that is understanding all of your intents that your customers have. And the reason why I'm talking about this now is that it doesn't matter what stage of maturity you're at, this seems to be something that not all teams have got a handle on. Understanding your customer intent taxonomy means unifying it, because, for example, one side of the business, like the contact center, might have a disposition code for a billing query, whereas another side of the organization that handles a different type of query might call it a general inquiry. So without really understanding the detail of what your customer needs are, it's very difficult to start planning for how is best to solve them. The second phase is to define what the best area of resolution is for those needs. So again, it's very tempting to say that everything should be AI automated from end to end, but actually, I think it was Nick from Lufthansa was here on stage yesterday in the panel talking about how Lufthansa have got some pretty good digital journeys already. Got some pretty good journeys in their app, pretty good journeys in their website. And so the idea here is to figure out what journeys do you have already that already work really, really well. Because even though a customer might come in on WhatsApp and hit your AI-mediated assistant first, it might be that the best place to resolve their issue is in another channel where you've already got a solution, thus leveraging your previous investments. And that's what the triage component is. It's triaging users into the right areas of resolution. And finally, once you've done that, you are then in an AI-first place. You're in a place where every contact channel has an AI-mediated front end, and then you can start to have a closer look and say, well, what can we automate? What can we do to improve this? And where's the end-to-end automation? And one of the ways to think about end-to-end automation, it's been mentioned a couple of times over the last few days, is to think about this concept of skills. Sasha was just presenting in the next room having this very similar kind of conversation. Now, in Cognigy, you might call these skills tools. In reality, some of these skills that you need in order to deliver successful automation programs don't necessarily rely on generative AI. Some of them might, but some of them might not. But the idea is that you need to identify some of the foundational skills that you need to be able to deliver customer experience automated at scale. This is a snapshot of some of them. And we talk about orchestration quite a lot. And the first level of orchestration is being able to orchestrate these skills together. So to deliver against a customer use case, like in this example, submitting a meter reading, you need to be able to do something like authenticate the user, maybe personalize the experience, get my previous history, call me by my first name, etc. Classify what it is that I'm trying to do in the first place, establish that meter reading submission is what I'm trying to do. Support me if I've got any questions. This is where maybe the RAG solution might come in play here. Where's my meter? What number is it? Does it start with a 4, etc. Extract the information, which is capture my meter reading address, get that out of the conversation into a place where I can put it into a system, update that system, and then notify me that it's been successfully completed. Very simple example of a way in which you can orchestrate skills to deliver against use cases. The second level of orchestration is at a capability level, which is what I was talking about earlier in terms of your AI-first approach. Every single channel goes into your AI assistant or AI agent first and foremost, and that decides based on customer intent, based on customer context, based on previous customer behavior, what to do and where to put you. And so, for example, if I call my insurance company and it knows that I've got the app installed on my phone and I'm logged into the app, then this instance, for whatever it is that I need, might be better off sending me a push notification, get me into the app, using voice-enabled guidance to stick on the phone with me as I open the app and guide me through the process. For other use cases, maybe it's a certain type of individual who doesn't have access to the internet, doesn't have the app installed, maybe then you do put them to your people. But it's a case of being sophisticated with how you orchestrate that together. Because if you can do that in a way in which you can leverage your existing digital infrastructure based on what you know about the customer, it means that the capacity in your contact center can be reserved for those people who just plainly don't want to speak to an AI assistant or plainly don't have access to the other tools that you've got available. And so if that's the case, that we want to start thinking about skills orchestrated into capabilities and capabilities orchestrated across channels in an AI-first environment, The thing that's left, all this is very much just technical behind-the-scenes stuff to help you think about how to go about doing this kind of stuff. But what's left then is the actual interaction. And as I mentioned earlier on the panel, all of this stuff, the whole 2 days that we've been talking and discussing and witnessing presentations and all of the great stuff that we've seen, all boils down to the time when your customer meets your solution, when your AI agent is actually having a conversation. It all boils down to that conversation, which means we have to prioritize creating highly successful conversations. And in a world of generative AI, where a lot of the dialogue management is devolved down to a generative AI assistant, there's this big question about how do we guarantee that our experiences have integrity? How do we know that we're creating the best possible experience? So last summer, we created these AI design principles. It's a combination of principles and standards that teams can adopt. One, to make sure that their process in the creation of these solutions are effective, and two, to make sure that you can audit the efficacy of the solutions that you create. And I've only got a few seconds left, so I just want to give you some examples of how you can use these things. So if you go to vux.world/principles, you can get a copy of this as opposed to you can download, and there's an article that goes into the standards that sit behind this stuff and all that kind of stuff. So if we were to take some examples of some chatbots that are utilizing generative AI and how we can use these principles to create better assistance. This is an example here. I booked a flight to Thailand through a travel agency. It's now ceased trading and the flights were cancelled. The AI's response is, to raise a dispute for a cancelled holiday, follow these steps. It tells me what to do. And then it says, you can raise a dispute in our app or by contacting us. Make sure to include any relevant documentation, blah, blah, blah. What's wrong with that as a response, do you think? Anyone tell me? The issue is that it violates the principle of cooperation. Now, this is symptomatic of a lot of RAG systems. This is why, I was glad to hear Sasha say earlier on that RAG isn't the solution for everything. RAG is a very powerful solution, and used in the right way can be incredibly great at understanding, unique customer needs and plugging gaps in your ability to understand. But all RAG solutions that rely on RAG on their own suffer from what I call the full stop problem, which is that it ends everything in a full stop. What we need to do is to encourage turn taking. That's what conversations are. Conversations are turns at talking. And so a principle should be that your AI assistant or AI agent should always encourage conversation, encourage engagement. In this situation, we've told them what we should do and all that kind of stuff. We should next be saying, do you have the app or what have you, or how can I help any further, or at least something to continue the conversation. Next example here from Voxy. By the way, this solution is actually a pretty good solution. I'm not ripping on any of these things. I know all of the people who built these things behind the scenes, and I know that a lot of them work really, really well. In this example here, will I need a roaming pass to go to Disneyland Paris? To use your phone in Disneyland Paris, you need a European roaming pass. If you're traveling from the UK, you can purchase a pass through your Voxy account online. Enjoy your trip. Anything else I can help with? Most people would think that's a pretty good answer. It's answered the question, etc. It's asking, it's taking turns in the conversation, it's asking for the next step. But the problem with that is it's not very goal-oriented. Because we know now that this person is going to Disneyland Paris. We know now that they are interested in taking out a roaming pass. We've told them, broadly speaking, what they need to do to get it. And roaming passes means basically revenue. And now we're saying, is there anything else I can help with? Now we're changing the topic to something else entirely. Rather than saying, in a goal-oriented fashion, I understand you need a roaming pass. Do you want to log in now and I'll price one up for you? Or here's the roaming passes we have available that match your plan, and getting into a goal-oriented conversation. Last one, Loop car insurance. This example here is, how feasible is it to add my grandma to my policy? Adding your grandma to your policy is likely feasible if she lives in your household, has access to the listed vehicle, and drives them regularly. You can submit a request form for this through our care team. Let me know if you have any other questions. The issue with that is it's not really holistic. It doesn't solve a full problem for a user. It's not connected to the rest of the customer journey. And it also doesn't really give me a great deal of confidence because it says it's likely feasible. In order to holistically answer that question, if there's criteria that need to be met, like does she live in the same household, does she have regular access to the vehicle, those are things that we should clarify in order to give more firm answers to customers and create more holistic solutions. So here's some examples, as I said, just ways in which you can leverage these principles to audit the efficacy of your end experience. And lastly, this is not picking on Pandora. I want to use it because I've been on this website a little bit lately. And most of the time, when we see something like this in the chatbot window there, most of the time we'll think there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But the big issue, and this isn't anything to do with Pandora, this has got everything to do with chatbots in general and the industry standard of chatbots in general, is that they're always confined to this little tiny spot in the bottom corner of a screen, which means that all this real estate, that all your web designers and all your content creators and all the people in your organization who've been spending their whole careers getting the skills to create really engaging, effective web experiences, all of that is now blanked out because all of my attention is down here. Every chatbot, 90% of chatbots are completely disconnected from the website. They have no idea what the journey was I've just been doing, no idea what page I'm on, and they always start with, hi, I'm this fancy chatbot, how can I help? That's why I was really excited to see Sebastian and Tice talk about some of the kind of updates in the Cognigy platform whereby the chat widget is not just this little chat widget that sits in the bottom corner, it's actually something that you can use to create enriching experiences. Because fast forward 5 years, your web team's not going to be the same web team anymore. Neither is your content team. All of your content is going to be consumed via your AI agents, and your interactions on web and on mobile are going to be fused together with your generative AI agents. And so when you are creating these solutions, as I said, try and think about being holistic. It was Roy Amara that said that we tend to overestimate the effect of technology in the short term and underestimate, but did I say that right? Overestimate in the short term, underestimate in the long term. And I think this is kind of where we are with generative AI. We're putting a lot of pressure on generative AI because we think it can solve all of our problems. So in the short term, we have these really high expectations of what generative AI can do. And it can do some really amazing things. It's solving some fundamental problems that we've had in the conversational space for a long time, namely the ability to understand and the ability to fill gaps in terms of our content. But the impact over the long term, to see the kind of impact that I've mentioned in the contact center, I think it's going to be very, very transformative. There's one last Greek adage, another Greek one. They must have not spoken to each other because it's very similar to the first one. This is Socrates' coins paradox, which is, if I give you 10 coins, are you rich? You probably think no. It depends how valuable the coins are. Let's say 10 euro coins. If I give you one more, would you become rich? The answer is no. If I give you one more and one more and one more, and I keep on going and keep on going and keep on going, and your pile of coins starts stacking up and stacking up and stacking up, at some point in time, you will say, I'm rich. So there needs to be a point that one coin makes you rich. Now, you might not notice it one coin at a time, but over time, the impact of small changes over time have tremendous impact. Now, everybody in this room creating these AI agents, you might be starting out with one use case, like in Santander's case, one phone call to a group of users, and you might think that it's having a great impact, with proven value, but it's not transforming our whole organization. But think about Socrates' paradox of one coin after one coin after one coin, one conversation after one conversation after one conversation. Over time, all of your interactions with customers become conversational, and at some point in time, your organization takes on a completely different shape. I genuinely think that natural language interfaces and the ability to have conversations with technology is the revolution, and everybody in this room is in the position in your organization to drive that change. I think this technology will enable all of your businesses to become the best possible versions of themselves by giving your customers the one thing that they can't get anywhere else, which is giving them back their time. And so if there's one message I would kind of leave you with, it is that. It's take responsibility in your organization to make your organization the best possible version of itself, because your organization is going to look to you to lead through this revolution, and that's why you're all here. So thank you very much.